Hey, listeners, welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of Cables, Coffee, and Curveballs. See, Rich, I got that right after all. Look at that.
Proud of you.
I'm here with my main man, Rich Miller, on this side, and Gopesh on the other side, our wonderful intern. Go ahead, do you, fellas.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back, folks. We have a great show in store for you today. We have a special guest in studio.
Very special guest.
And as George mentioned, we have Gopesh on the other side of the glass.
Oh, that's right. Gopesh doesn't have a mic.
Gopesh doesn't have a mic, so he's waving to us in spirit.
Yeah, I thought he was going to introduce himself, but he's there.
He introduced himself really well in the last episode when he roasted you. So here we are.
Fair enough. Rich, I'm really excited. We have a wonderful guest with us.
We do.
In studio
in person,
today.
in studio. I love it.
We love our in-person guests.
Yes, we do.
But as always, I am not going to introduce the guest as we run the risk of going in the wrong direction. So Go ahead. I'll let you introduce yourself, Dan.
My name is Dan Ferrisi. I am Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald. Part of my responsibility is overseeing Commercial Integrator. The other one is Security Sales and Integration. And I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can live up to the billing that you've given me so far. I'm really looking forward to the conversation, guys.
Awesome.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw on LinkedIn that you have a new position within CI. Is that right?
Yeah. So formerly I had been Editor-in-Chief of Commercial Integrator, and I still have that role in terms of function. But my title is now Group Editor, Commercial and Security, which reflects the fact that Commercial Integrator and its sister publication, Security Sales and Integration, have now come together in print into one combined property.
Nice.
Oh, very cool.
So commercialintegrator.com remains the same, securitysales.com remains the same, but in print, we have a unified editorial ecosystem.
To me, that sounds like they gave you a lot more work.
It's a lot more work, but it's more responsibility, and I love the opportunity to continue to grow professionally. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
right?
awesome. That's awesome.
Now, before we get started, I just want to talk very briefly about an event we have here being set up. Rich and I are working on an event here at PACE, November 29th, where we're inviting local high schools to come and spend half a day here at the university. And we're going to talk to them about the AV industry. Mm-hmm. Rich and I have been screaming to anyone that'll listen about the need for some sort of a career or a teaching learning path for the AV industry. We've stumbled into this industry. Stop me if you've heard that before. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years. I have a CTS, sure, but no professional, no defined career study path, so to speak, to be in this industry. So Rich and I, we got to working on this a couple of years ago, but long story short, we really think we're at a point where we need to start talking to the younger generation, the future workforce, and start planting the seed of AV so they're, better talent. But that's November 29th, folks. So all the high school folks, get ready to come join us here at PACE, and looking forward to a wonderful day. But to that point, Dan, I want to get your opinion on every integrator, every manufacturer we speak to. They're really excited about this program, this AV program, and the reason is that there is a shortage of staff or talent. Or if there is good talent, it's hard to retain that talent, right? From your experience, from your years in the industry, what do you think is the reason behind that? And what do you think we could do to kind of start mitigating those issues, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. I just want to commend both Rich and you, George, for the efforts that you are making, mentioning that event that's going to be taking place at PACE to try to raise people's awareness, because I think the biggest problem is a relative lack of awareness. When I was doing podcast interviews with last year's CI 40 Under 40, I can't tell you how many said, I started as a bartender, then this happened, now I'm an AV. And these are people who are recognized as 40 Under 40, who are absolute superstars. It makes you kind of lament how many people potentially could be in this ecosystem. You hear the who do we miss the next Einstein? Who is the next Einstein that was never cultivated? Right. Who is our Einstein that never ended up coming into this ecosystem because he or she never happened into it? Sure. So I think that's one of the big issues, and as a result, all over the industry, integrators and consultants, et cetera, are suffering from a lack of talent. I mean, not that the people in their organizations aren't fantastic, but we need more of them. There are more openings than there are people to fill them. And I think a lot of it is finding a purposeful and intentional way to draw people into this industry, not IT, not DevOps, like find people who are technology curious or technology interested and finding an intentional path into our ecosystem.
And to that point, and this is something I mentioned at the ETC conference. Shout out to the ETC annual conference 2023 USC.
2024 Iowa State.
Iowa State. Rich and I presented on this AV degree program, and I mentioned it on stage. It was the first time I mentioned it. Is like, I have 2 kids. At no point have I mentioned AV as a career to my kids, right? So I'm just as fault for that as probably the rest of us in the industry, because I'm not sure many people talk to their kids about a career in the AV industry, right? I think the outlook there when you in the world when you talk about AV is still, setting up speakers at a KISS concert or pulling cables in a conference room, not understanding that there is.
Should have said Taylor Swift instead of
I'm sorry.
KISS. I mean, especially with all the recent news.
Yeah, I clearly dated myself there. Speakers for a Taylor Swift event. All the Swifties out there, my apologies. But in your opinion, how do we optimize the appeal? How do we appeal to the younger generation? Like, if I have to tell my kids, you should really think about AV as a career, what would that look? What is it that would be appealing to this generation, in your opinion?
I think there's a lot of different things. What I will say is I came to the AV industry with no background in technology whatsoever. I wasn't in the AV club. I didn't help set up the screens and all that when I was in high school. I was a journalist looking for a journalism job, and I found my way here. I went to the first, my first show was NSCA Systems Integration Expo in 2005. Then I was at Infocom 2005. I've been to every one since then. Awesome. And I remember going to that show, again, not having any background in technology, and just being awed by looking at the large format displays and hearing immersive audio and like the sound tube, like directional sound. I think that technology still has a wow factor, and I think even for those of us who are around it all the time, it still does. But I think especially for those who have an intrinsic interest in technology, being enmeshed in that kind of an environment, I think is mentally stimulating. It's orally stimulating. It's visually stimulating. It's something that can get people excited. So I think that's one element of it. I think also the idea that we are so experience focused right now in the integration industry and the AV industry broadly. I hear integrators describe themselves as like outcome guarantors and experience curators and things like that. I think people who even have like a storytelling bent or a creativity bent or something like that can sink their teeth into the idea that I'm not merely a reseller of technology, I'm not merely an installer of technology, but I'm going to use technology to create an ecosystem that is going to ensure some kind of an outcome or evoke a feeling or tell a story. I think that's potentially really interesting to them as well as how lucrative it can be. I mean, people don't necessarily go into our industry to be millionaires, but people make a very, very good living if they're able to live up to those very high ideals of delivering an outstanding outcome for client after client, day after day, and having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
Can I jump back to something?
Yeah. Can I just make one point before you say that?
Oh, he's going to forget. I'll let him make one point.
I just wanted to say, to your point, Avixa mentioned that for those that the AV industry is going to be a $408 billion industry in the next 5 years.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot.
Did you say you have not missed an Infocom since when?
2005.
That is impressive.
That is impressive.
That is
truly impressive.
I thought that's what you said. I just wanted to make sure that I got that right.
That was my first one.
Awesome.
It was Vegas, I believe, and I haven't missed one since.
Nice.
Wow.
I wish we had a streak. We need a streak.
Yeah, right?
I like that.
We had a streak and then it was broken by COVID.
Well, fair, but
what did badges look like in 2005?
I think they were printed on parchment.
Well done. I want to take that angle that George just kind of started with. He talked about recruiting the young talent. He talked about being a dad. So I'm a girl dad. I have 2 young girls, 8 and almost 4, and I don't think they know I do tech stuff, computer stuff, like to them, computer stuff, right? Like they're techie. They're tech savvy. Obviously, they've grown up in this age where iPads have been in their hands since they were able to grab them. But from our perspective, this is a known issue in our realm, right? It's a traditionally male-dominated industry, the AV industry. So we're trying to change that as well. We partnered with WaveIt and Gina and all the good folks over there, and we've had some great conversations with them. In fact, they're going to be on our panel on the 29th. Also, open invite. I'm not sure if I've actually formally invited you, but I'm going to formally invite you on the air, Dan, to the 29th, because we'd obviously love to have you there as well.
That would
Thank
make
you.
you the first person we officially formally invited.
We have
in
not
person.
formally invited anybody yet, so we were waiting to do it live on the air. So there it is there. So, pop that on your calendar if you think you can make it. I know you're pretty close here to campus, so that's awesome. But the angle I was going with was how do we bridge that gap, right? To really getting the female population. There's so many talented, and George and I in the past year and a half, we've connected with and networked with and become friends with, really, all the AVTweeps out there, right?
Yeah.
So many female and talented females out there in the industry, and how do we continue bridging that gap to bringing more females to the forefront?
Well, I think that's a really important question, and I'd be honored to be able to come. I'll check my schedule, but I'd love to be here.
Awesome.
It sounds like something that I'd love to be part of.
Awesome.
It sounds cliche to some extent, but I'm going to say it because I think it's really true. Representation matters and visibility matters. And I think if we're going to cultivate in young girls and young women a desire to be part of our overall community, they need to see themselves, and not just like in a hypothetical way, but in the real world. They need to see the Ginas. They need to see the Corey Schaefers. They need to see the people who are absolute legends and rock stars in our industry who have made an incredible name for themselves and have been difference makers, not only for their own companies, but for their mentees and those around them. So they need to see that. And I think that's why organizations like Emerald, Commercial Integrator, people like you are working so hard to make sure that there is visibility for those who are already in our ecosystem doing incredible things. That's why when we do the AV Living Legends series, for example,
yes, great
we've
series.
honored, Marla Suttenberg and Corey has been part of that. So many people, Althea Ricketts, and just recently Charmaine Torella. I could rattle off the people who are already part of our ecosystem who can be that North Star for girls and women, especially minority girls and women, to say, I want to be like her. So I think the more that we amplify and showcase the incredible contributions of the women in our industry, the more we're going to be able to have people say, I can be like her. Because it shouldn't just be something like imaginary. I want there to be actual tactile vision of that's who I can be.
Yeah. I love that answer.
I
like the North Star reference. That was good. I like that.
I wish I had the board here so I could do the applause thing when you said so many amazing things.
Kopesh can pop that in there after post edit. He's giving us a thumbs up.
Has to be. That's awesome. And just something Rich and I briefly touched on when we came back from USC at the ETC conference was even us as men. There are certain references, inferences that are made in conversation that we need to check people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something was said to me, and I mentioned it to Rich after the fact, and I was very guilty that I didn't correct the person on the spot. I wish I had. It was one of those things that it went in passing, and I said, all right, let's change whatever it was. And after I hung up the phone and I had instant regret that I said, you know what, I should have stopped. I should have corrected that right then and there on the spot. That is a regret of mine. But that's something we should be more mindful in general about generalizing and such.
You're 100% right, George. And I feel the same way, and all of us fail to meet our best hopes. I mean, I certainly do it myself. I think it's the difference between allyship and advocacy. I want not merely to be an ally, I want to be an advocate, and that means checking myself and saying, I didn't quite do it today, I'm going to hope to do it tomorrow, and being very mindful in every interaction. If I can use my privilege, my privilege of both being a white male, my privilege of being at a certain level in the industry, my privilege of having been to 20 Infocoms and people knowing me, I have a certain amount of privilege and purchase in this industry, and it is incumbent on me to be not merely an ally, but to use my privilege to be an advocate. That's genuinely how I feel.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's refreshing. It really is.
I hope to do better myself next time.
Yeah. Hey, live and learn. Live and learn.
Yeah.
We're not perfect, right?
None of us is, and I'm certainly not.
No, but
so to turn back into the industry, you had mentioned something that AV industry fuels and drives our market. I made a note of that. What do you tell us a little what you mean by that? What does AV fuels the industry and our market mean?
When I say that AV kind of fuels our AV technology, you mean that it kind of fuels our industry? I go back to the wonderment, I guess, of going to that first Infocom, that first NSCA Systems Integration Expo, and understanding how technology while it's kind of whiz bang and amazing unto itself, and I still get amazed when I look at like, direct view LED walls and things like that. And, I almost have to wear sunglasses because they're so bright and so vivid.
It's wild.
But like that in and of itself, while it's impressive, what I'm really interested in is technology fueling an outcome. So I think that's kind of what I mean. I really think about technology merely as a tool in a toolbox to be a means to an end, whether that's students learning more effectively, remote students being able to engage with their classmates in a fulsome manner and not feeling like they're second-class citizens, meetings that are able to take place that include both in-person people in the meeting room and those that are remote, performing arts centers that are be able to give people experiences they're going to remember for the rest of their lives, whether it's Taylor Swift or Kiss.
Well done, Dan. Well done.
What I want is I want to see this vision of technology again, means to an end. We're going to guarantee an outcome collectively as an industry so that when people engage with us, touch any part of our ecosystem, integrators, consultants, vendors, end users, whatever it is, they're going to have amazing memories and smiles, and it's going to be something that leaves an indelible impression on them. So I think that's kind of what I think about. I think technology is a means to that end, and that end I think is our best aspiration.
Nice. Yeah. So piggybacking off of that, you touched on the event aspect of it, and I wanted to kind of give a storyline here of where we're going with this. So we initially tried to kind of link up with you at Infocom in Florida. We saw you out like we said in the wild, right? We took a pic, we found like, and then suddenly we were talking to you at the airport, not realizing that, hey, we're going back. All three of us are going back to the same spot.
It's like, why are we at the same gate?
Same gate, yep. And then at the NSCA golf outing, we missed you by about 5 minutes because we had to duck out a little early on that. And then it rained a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Yep. So this is our fourth try, and so you say events, but like the whole in-person aspect. So George and I mentioned this at the beginning, having somebody in studio, right, and really being able to network with them and take an actual AV selfie, which we will do when we finish recording here.
Absolutely.
Is such a
something we missed at the airport.
Right. So exactly, we both got we both definitely dropped the ball on that one as well. But it's something that events in general, the event we're doing on the 29th, the fact that you've been to Infocom since 2005, which is still blowing my mind. I wrote that down again because I was like, did you really say? Because I've been to like 5 or 6. I think you've probably been in like double digits, but like that's really, but it drives our industry. You're right. The events, the networking, again, I'm going to say it again, our AVTweeps, right? But what is your favorite? Do you have one favorite event, is it like a recurring event throughout the year that that's something that occurs annually, or is there one?
I can answer that one.
What's that?
It just happened in Denver.
Well, I mean, it could be a loaded question, but I don't know what his answer is going to be. He didn't. This wasn't on the list. This just popped up in my brain. I was like, is there one that, maybe withstanding, your own event? Is there one that you would say is your favorite, quote unquote? I know they're all great. We all that's part of being in the industry, but
it's a very fair question, and I appreciate you mentioning George. I mean, Commercial Integrator Expo we loved, and that was an incredible experience. Yeah. But I'm not going to be so self-serving as to say, of course, that's the best event ever. It was, I think, a really, really strong event in its first year. We're going to have an even better event next time.
Awesome.
But it's hard for me to pinpoint anything in particular, be it Infocom or ISC or Commercial Integrator Expo or anything else, just because all of the events, and I don't mean to avoid the question, but every event gives me an opportunity to connect with people like you, people like really everyone in the industry. When I do my selfie wall essentially on LinkedIn, you see 100 different people there. And why I value it so much is because it is not like naturally, organically who I am. Well, at least when I was younger, I was the biggest introvert you could ever meet. I'm telling you. Okay. When I graduated high school, I'd say probably a quarter of my graduating class didn't know who I was. I was a super quiet kid. Okay. But coming in this industry, I met so many incredible people. So many wonderful friends, people I want to hang out with separate and apart from any work event. We don't talk work at all. We talk about kids and family and life and dreams and aspirations. This industry has brought me out of my shell. And by coming out of my shell, I've become so much better of an editor, so much more plugged in of an editor. Something like this would have scared me quite a bit 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. Right. But I feel much more confident now to the point that most people wouldn't know that I'm introverted. And I give a lot of credit to these in-person AVTweeps events, and more specifically, the people who populate them. I've learned from people like Megan Dutta and people like Alicia Hendley how to embrace myself and not feel like I need to kind of curl up, essentially. And in that way, the AV industry and AVTweeps community in particular has kind of transformed my life and made me, I think, a better person.
Shout out to Alicia Henley, one of our favorite.
She was one of our
AVTweeps.
first few guests feels like back in the day now. It was only about a year ago, but
Yeah.
that was she was one of our first few guests too.
She is one of my
the
best
smooth
friends.
factor.
Yeah.
Should we? I want to ask you about what's this Friday grind thing that happens on Twitter on X every week?
I'm sorry, Friday's a day I don't grind.
It pops up on our Twitter feed every Friday. We mean to ask you about that.
Yes.
I'm sure it's an inside joke or something. But
So, yeah.
we brought Alicia up, so we might as well ask about it, right?
Yeah.
So, Alicia is like so driven.
Yes.
And she is like always hustling and
Yep.
working hard, and she
Yep.
has her vision.
Yep.
And so that's what the rise and grind thing
Yeah.
is. Because, it's always like, going above where you were born and reaching for the stars and being
Love
the
it.
first one in your family to do this and all that. Like, she has such big dreams, and I think it's incredible. So, of course, Megan Dutta and I have to jokingly poo-poo those and say, no, we're not going to do
love
that.
it.
No way.
I love it.
So we always look for either, GIFs or memes or something to poo-poo that. And we
I love
stock
it.
them up, so we have one every Friday.
Nice. You have them ready.
Yeah, we
I
have them
love it.
ready.
I love it.
I'm a rise and grind Monday through Thursday kind of guy.
But not on Friday. So
George is more like a Tuesday through Thursday kind of guy, but
yeah, Tuesday afternoon.
this is a special appearance today.
so I'll need to tag you and Megan's and my
Yes.
poo-pooing
Yes,
of Alicia's
yes,
stuff.
yes.
Done.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
I got to ask you. You've mentioned Infocom since 2005 3 or 4 times now on the show. So I got to ask you, in your opinion, what is the difference, the growth, the changes that you've noticed, whether it's Infocom or NAB or whatever the shows are, ISC even, right? Let's go pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, but also let's go 2005 to Orlando this past year.
That's a very, very good question. When I think back to those shows in the mid-aughts that I went to, first of all, you saw a lot of booths that were essentially just a wall full of black boxes,
Right.
a wall festooned with black boxes. And I mean, the technology, of course, was top of the line for its time, but it wasn't about the experience. It was about the spec sheet. I think there was a lot of specsmanship, as I call it, where it's talking about, well, mine is marginally faster or marginally less compression or whatever it is.
Right.
But it wasn't about an outcome. It was about specs for a box. I think that's changed in a dramatic way, even to the point where some of the marquee names have kind of transformed their booth presence. So now they have kind of like mini education spaces or mini conference spaces or mini home spaces where you actually see the technology in situ. And you really never, ever saw that in the mid-aughts. I think that's a big change that we've seen. I think there's also been some democratization on the show floor. I think, it used to be that particular booths might dominate the entire space. I think there's more democracy now in the sense that everyone has a bit more of a say. I think we're such a rich industry in terms of the vendors that are part of the ecosystem, the integrators that are part of our ecosystem. It's nice to see a bit more democratization, even while, of course, those companies that are the A-class and very, very well known by all of us continue to lead in a very meaningful way. And the other thing I would say is obviously, the soft codec revolution, the platformization of the industry has changed. I remember going to see, conference rooms of the future back then, and it would be very, very hardware centric, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in-room systems.
These boxes.
But
Oh my
now
goodness.
we're talking about Zoom and GoToMeeting and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that's been a big change as well. I remember going to some of those booths and it'd be like, here's your $1 million conference room.
Literally,
system.
yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still blown away by the LED section of the show floor at Infocom.
Yeah. Anytime I lose them, I know where to find them.
It's just lights, and I'm attracted to lights, and I don't know what to do when I get there. It's just it's crazy to see, even just the progression of the LED walls,
Yeah.
the little 2x2 tiles, and you could see the bulbs, and now unless you go really up close, you won't see those bulbs. It's just crazy to see and of course LG and Sony coming with their curved TVs, and what was that 64-foot TV wall that Sony had, and
Amazing.
and Crestron's biggest booth ever, every InfoComm, which blows my mind.
Front and center.
It's been fascinating to watch over the years. It really has. And then of course just seeing kind of trends or fads come and go. Like when Avatar came out, that following InfoComm, people were talking about 3D this and 3D glasses. Then all that faded away.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, almost like the tide. What comes in, what goes out, what changes.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. So you segued perfectly into my next question, which was in trends in general. Obviously, this can be a very loaded question, but I was going to ask, AI is obviously a big thing right now. What do you, from your perspective, what do you see as the kind of current trends or biggest trend right now, in general in AV?
I mean, I think AI certainly is right up there. People, I think, are trying to figure out exactly what its place is. I mean, whether it's generative AI. I was just recently invited to kind of I guess I don't think I'm violating any confidentiality by saying this, but Bill Fonz, president of PTG, an incredible integrator, has kind of a generative AI powwow session every Tuesday that he and a number of other integration leaders are part of, where people are just trying to kind of wrap their heads around where exactly this is going to be going. So I think that's really significant. I think another big trend, though, is just kind of that open architecture, open API kind of thing, as opposed to being in a locked garden or a closed garden approach. I've heard more derision directed toward like that closed garden, locked in approach recently than I ever have before. Probably because, I mean, with supply chains having been difficult over the last couple of years, you don't want to necessarily be tethered to any particular supply chain, because then that can put you in a vulnerable position. Yeah. So I would say another big trend other than AI is this idea of embracing open architecture, embracing open standards, and finding ways to be able to not be locked into anything in particular.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes, mentioning AI and having these little conversations, I'm going to do a quick plug for ETC, Educational Technology Collaborative.
Look at this guy. He's a walking marketing machine over here.
I'm sorry. But yeah, we're doing a 4-part series on AI, emerging technologies, campus administration, instructional design, and DEI, women in technology and AI. Nice. So, the dates are all, I put it on my LinkedIn, it's out there, and we'll put links out there. But I think, it'd be a great conversation to have.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is a direction of the industry in general, not just AV, everything that we do. Yeah. That was a quick plug. I'm sorry.
No, good plug. Good plug. I wanted to change gears. I feel like it's time for maybe a little streaming season.
Streaming season.
Streaming season.
Yes.
Do you want to start, George?
Yes, I'm
going to put you on the spot.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's give Dan an idea what streaming season is first.
Okay.
So streaming season, we try to be cool. George tries to be cool.
When he says we, it's him.
It's spelled SZN, like how the kids do it. It's really just what we're watching. So if you're watching something on Netflix, or if there's a cool show that actually, I mean, there's not a lot of shows on new right now on like the main channels that I personally watch, but if you're streaming anything right now, we usually kind of plug it here, or if you saw a great movie recently, we're open to anything. Streaming season's open season. See what I did there.
I'm still watching my Friends and King of Queens reruns.
Oh, nice.
But
okay.
You mentioned Linus a few times.
Yes. Did you watch it?
My wife and I binged it.
Yeah.
And it's a great show.
Great show.
Linus. I never heard of it.
Yeah.
It's on Paramount.
Paramount? Yeah, I think it's Paramount.
Yeah. Joey Saldana, Morgan Freeman, Nicole Kidman. It's a great cast.
It's actually a really good cast.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I stumbled across it with my wife, and we just watched it. And I was like, wow, this is really solid. But you got to do like a classic, get a free trial if you don't have Paramount Plus. Watch it within the 30 days, because I have so many streaming things that I feel like I'm paying more now than when I had actual cable. So, so I cannot think of what I'm watching right now. Oh my goodness, I haven't been watching TV
let's
recently.
Ask Dan.
Let's ask Dan then. I'm gonna put Dan on that. Let's put Dan on the spot and give me 30 seconds.
Sure. So I don't get to watch very much, because with my twin 3-year-olds, a lot of it is Cocomelon and Blippi.
I love Cocomelon.
But I do go to the movies a lot. So I'm a big movie person. I'm an AMC A-list member, and I try to go to 3 movies a week if I can. That's like my outlet.
Wow.
Cool.
So just last night I saw a Spanish language horror film called When Evil Lurks, which I thought was really interesting, kind of a very unique twist on the possession genre, not kind of the standard issue like Exorcist version. It's a little bit more imaginative than that. So if you have a strong stomach and you're not worried about anything like that, then I would recommend it.
Wow.
All
Say
right.
3-year-old twins, Dan.
3-year-old
You
twins.
must have your hands full.
Yeah.
I don't miss the TV shows that come with that age group. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. and
It's JJ. It's JJ. Little
I-
Coco Melon.
that's
Give him a
it.
little Coco Melon. George doesn't know about Coco Melon.
No, I don't.
George missed that.
My boys have graduated to like preteen shows, and it's
Yeah.
really just annoying.
Yeah, yeah. Have you gotten into Bluey yet? Bluey's my favorite, actually. But speaking of movies, not one that I've seen recently, but one that I will be going to see because the girls want to go see it, is the new Paw Patrol movie. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw it out there. I'm a big Paw Patrol guy. I
I'm
grew up.
not gonna lie to you. I
Yeah.
might end up there too.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Paw Patrol. It was I was a big fan when my oldest was growing up. She's 8 now. Kind of was growing out of that. The younger one never really took on to Paw
Yeah.
Patrol because she jumped to whatever the 8-year-old is watching. But at heart, that's still my favorite show. Is Paw
Yeah.
Patrol. So,
Andy's favorite, I believe, was Chase, and Michael's favorite was Rubble.
yeah.
My favorite was Chase as well.
Mine was Rocky because he was green. So yeah.
Chase because he was blue.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Clearly, I don't know enough about Paw
Yeah.
Patrol,
Well,
but
you're
Yeah.
gonna find out
Oh,
soon.
you'll find
You're
out.
gonna
Oh
find
no, the
out.
lights
Here
are
we
turning
go.
off.
Here we go.
Whoa.
It's happening again.
Maybe not. So a new segment. We are not doing. What did we used to do? We're doing dad jokes
We're
now.
doing dad jokes.
Yeah, because
but there's a picture. Should we ask about that?
we ran out of ball jokes. I was gonna do the dad joke, and I was gonna ask about the picture. Do you
Oh,
want to
okay,
ask
I
about the
got you.
picture
I got
first?
you. No, we go your way.
No,
It's
do
fine,
the
it's
dad
fine.
joke first. All
I
right.
do
So we
dad
used to do ball jokes, but then we got to a point where it's like, all right, like some of them were too silly. We ran out after one
There's
season.
only so many ball
Yeah,
jokes.
well, I mean, we joke about it because we're there, but
Well.
so we were like, let's pivot. So every season we'll do a new type of joke. So we pulled dad jokes this time around. So we usually each throw a dad joke. Either if you have one, Dan, you can definitely throw one in there,
Right
list.
now.
But
No pressure.
So
Are you all right there?
yeah, I was trying to decide which one to use, to be honest with you. Why did the bicycle fall over?
I don't know why.
Because it was too tired. Oh man,
I definitely laughed at that one.
I like that one.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
I got one too.
Did you? Oh, is that a different one? You're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
off script?
No, it's on this.
Oh,
one,
okay,
it's
okay,
on,
okay.
it's on.
I didn't know if you were going off script.
Why do cows wear bells? Why do cows wear bells?
So you know when they're moving?
Oh, that was
that's
a good one. I actually
actually.
like that one.
Yeah. The one answer I had, I do like that answer though, because their horns don't work.
So I found a dad jokes account on I think Instagram or Twitter. the other night I was screenshotting. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have like an infinite supply because this
Yeah.
account posts like it's one of those like accounts that has like 1 million followers and like probably makes money
Yeah, a
off of
couple of those
everything.
you screenshotted, they're pretty legendary.
We have some good ones coming up. So yeah, this
Yeah.
this was the intro. This was our kind of our kickoff. But we have some really good dad jokes. So stay
Yeah.
tuned. Do you have any, Dan, or I'm not gonna put you on the spot if you don't have one.
I didn't.
All right.
I didn't take notes.
That's
I don't
all
have
good.
any.
All good. All
That's
good.
okay,
All
it's
good.
all
I figured I'd ask. I think we
This is your fine, so I'll let
Oh
you
yeah,
go.
yeah. So when we were doing before we wrap, first of all, thank you for coming today. Like this
This is amazing.
You are such you mentioned the word advocate for it. You are such an advocate. You're such a supporter of the industry, being part of the industry. We see you like we've been trying to connect with you for a while. Obviously, it just didn't work out. We're super stoked that you took some time to come chat with us today. But we just wanted to thank, like every time I log into LinkedIn, I feel like I always see you on there, uplifting somebody, thanking somebody, commending somebody,
really amazing.
highlighting something they're doing. And, in addition to obviously doing what you do with your own stuff, but you're not the type that's looking for the limelight. You're always uplifting other people, it seems like to me, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, every time I log in. And it's such a great thing to see.
That should
And
be
you-
an applause moment.
yeah, applause moment. And you could tell. You mentioned it before. You genuinely care about the relationships that you've built in this industry, and we're glad to have been now friends with you. We consider you a friend now, and as a fellow AVTweep, and we're happy that you came up here. But during my research, I found this really awesome picture that somebody posted. Where should I put it, Gopesh?
I think
is that
we
okay?
could do a screen share.
Yeah, we'll do a screen share.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you. It's like it's Super Dan. I don't know. I wanted to ask you what the story was behind that. That is I don't know.
That's really awesome.
I don't know the background on it. I just happened to come across it when we were making some notes for this recording, and we printed out a copy. And if it's appropriate to talk about, I figured why not.
Well, first of all, I very much appreciate the kind words you shared. I genuinely very, very much appreciate it. My attitude is to hoard blame and give out credit. I don't want
Ooh,
that.
that's rare.
my attitude.
That is so rare, Dan. Seriously.
Because the thing is, I feel like I have enough exposure already just by virtue of my role. I don't need to necessarily pull the spotlight to myself. I get it automatically. So I want to make sure others have an opportunity to shine. Now, that photo, I mentioned Bill Fonz earlier.
Yes.
He created that.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, I think it was one of his marketing people or art people. And I think he basically saw me working the trade shows, much like you did. You spotted me out in the wild, as you say at Infocom. And he said something about the hardest working man in the industry, which I most certainly am not. But he said something like that. And he said, well, therefore you're Super Dan. So that is where that came from. It came from the team at PTG, which is a wonderful integrator. And I was honored and delighted and laughed quite a bit. And he was also very generous with my hairline.
Awesome.
So that was nice.
I tell you, if there was an AV superhero, that's what it would look like, for sure.
That's a great story, and I think that's a great way to tie up the show, and to thank Dan again for coming.
Thank you so much for joining us, especially coming here in person. You know, aside from everything Rich said, he's the one that says too many things. He keeps going. You know, you can't stop him.
Can't stop me.
Having in-person guests are super awesome. Not that the guests that are come in video, they're great too, but just having somebody in studio, it's just the flow of conversation is so much easier.
I think you're our most local AV tweep too. Like,
yes,
it kind of just hit me too. Like we're so close. Like being right here. George and I all live very close to Pleasantville.
We thought Chris was the closest until we realized we're taking the same flight
We're very
back.
close. So cool stuff.
Well, I'm honored to have been asked. I really sincerely am. I always somewhat feel like, well, why would anyone put the spotlight on me when there are other more important, more articulate, more thoughtful people than I? But I'm honored and to be asked. I really appreciate it. All the kind things you say. I appreciate your friendship. Likewise, it goes the same way. I consider both of you friends.
Awesome.
I'm happy to come back anytime.
Awesome.
And we will pick you up on that offer.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, folks, be kind,
Stay steady.
check in on an old friend,
Help someone.
and have a good cup of Joe on us. Boom. Take care.